This is Channel 4. Now, to mark the 50th anniversary of his death, Antonio Gramsci is the subject of a partly dramatised account of his life and politics. John Sessions plays the Italian communist leader whose theories went beyond the narrowly political to encompass everything that concerns people.
Procurate moderare, baronessa di tirannia. Procurate moderare, baronessa di tirannia.
Marshal Badoglio triumphantly climaxed his brilliant campaign by this final swoop upon Addis Ababa. With wild enthusiasm, Rome heard the news that Addis Ababa had fallen. Italy hails Mussolini as the modern Caesar.
Signor Gramsci?
Who is it?
Corigliano. Lena.
Oh, Lena, come in.
I hope I'm not disturbing you. It's just I thought, well, I've got a wireless set in my room if you wanted to listen to Signor Mussolini's speech tonight.
No.
I could get it brought in here if that was easier for you.
No. Another day. When there's some music, maybe.
But I thought, I mean, you used to be in Parliament yourself, didn't you?
Yes, it gave me immunity from being impressed by anything Mr. Mussolini has to say about anything. Sit down, Lena. By your accent, you're Calabrian. With a mind of your own, I hope.
I suppose so. Some people seem to think girls from the South haven't got minds at all.
They only want to make you believe that.
It's annoying, though.
You're under attack, so you must defend yourself with what you are. That's maybe not easy to understand. Mr. Mussolini will tell us tonight about our African empire. But you and I, Lena, we hardly make the most convincing emperors.
But just the same, surely we're all Italian.
Eventually. First, you're a Calabrian and a woman. I'm a Sardinian. Italy's not a mother. She needs our consent. Little sermon there. To tell to your own children.
Children? I won't ever have children the way I am.
Well, other people's then. I have two. Didn't you know that? One of them I've never seen. Giuliano.
Where is he?
Moscow, with his mother and his brother Delio. There are pictures on the table if you want to look. I was arrested before Giuliano was born.
So that's why there's usually a policeman outside your door. Because you're a prisoner.
I have what our leader is pleased to call provisional liberty.
That's terrible. I thought it was because you were a VIP.
When I saw it all coming, I understood that history doesn't happen by itself. So much work to be done. Empires in Africa are child's play by comparison.
Italia ha finalmente il suo impero. Oggi, 9 maggio, 14° anno dell'era fascista.
In November 1926, nearly 10 years before Mussolini proclaimed his Italian empire in Africa, Antonio Gramsci had been arrested despite immunity as an elected member of parliament. In May 1928, he had appeared with other leading communists before a special tribunal in Rome charged with conspiracy, instigating civil war, and fomenting class hatred. Sentencing Gramsci on June the 4th, the head of the fascist tribunal had declared, "We must prevent this brain from functioning for 20 years. The fascists failed. Since the end of World War II, the authorities at the special prison for the sick at Turi near Bari in the Italian south have preserved Gramsci's cell as a kind of shrine to the man whose prison letters and notebooks constitute not only one of the century's most important bodies of political philosophy, but also one of its greatest testimonies to human courage and endurance. Gramsci's very right to write in prison had to be fought for in a protracted legal wrangle. The letters were subject to censorship. The notebooks had to be smuggled out. It was the late 40s before the first selections of his prison writings were published, the 60s before definitive editions revealed the full extent of his achievement. The painter Renzo Galeotti spoke for a whole generation of post-war Italians when he wrote, "The tiny, suffering man with the big bushy hair, intensely working in the dark of his cell, is one of the strongest and most moving images of our time." In his life, Gramsci embodied the watchwords he had made his own: pessimism of the intelligence, optimism of the will. For today and for the world, his legacy is pervasive, an exemplary insistence on the particular and on the importance of popular culture in building popular hegemony, that intellectual and moral leadership which is a precondition of true democracy.
Il che significa democrazia.
And this means democracy. Not democracy in the sense of parliamentary democracy. It's not that. Neither is it democracy in the sense that European social democrats have developed the concept. But it's democracy just the same. It involves the need for a consensus, an acceptance by the governed of the rules and the world view of the governors. It is here that the great relevance of Gramsci lies, of Gramsci the revolutionary. He is not a social democrat. He is not a liberal democrat. He is a democrat, and one whose writings repeatedly refute the methods of Stalinism.
Nation building needs its names and myths. Post-war Italy has many Piazza Gramscis. But perhaps the most impressive is also one of the most remote, at Ales, Gramsci's birthplace in central Sardinia. Giovanni Lai, a Sardinian trade unionist, was a political prisoner at Turi between 1931 and 33. He remembers Gramsci the man.
Chicken shit.
Eh?
Chicken shit. A load of that would make all the difference.
Aye, well.
Get the chicken shit down ere the first frost comes, for tomatoes as firm as virgin's bums. You've never heard that, Giovanni?
Can't say I have.
Oh, it'll be true, too. The old folks knew what they were talking about, in these matters at least. Agricultural science, no doubt, could provide the precise chemical formulation. The proverb's easier. Or am I just being sentimental?
We're all entitled to a bit of that now and again, I reckon. The likes of us especially.
No, we're not. The likes of us especially not. Sentimentality debilitates. It's like treating the priest to a flask of wine every weekend for 40 years in the hopes of a happier end. All very pleasant and sociable. Trouble is, it costs a packet. And the poor bugger who's paying the bill is all the more terrified when his time finally does come.
What about the priest?
He's all right. He dies fat. Comrade Lai, you don't have very much to say for yourself.
I'm a worker.
No, that's not good enough. You've a chip on your shoulder and a block in your brain, a typical Sardinian.
Come on.
You think, why should the mumblings of an illiterate goat herd interest the Honourable Deputy Gramsci, who's an educated man?
That's a bit strong.
If it gets your dandruff, it'll do.
What would you expect?
The limit. And beyond, from every man, plus himself.
Hey, do you mind the time, back in Sardinia, in 24, when you came into that cafe in Cagliari where I was working, up in the Piazza Ieni, and you sat down at one of my tables and I served you? That was a big thing for me.
touch the hem of my garment, did you?
Well, I better get on.
Sorry. It's just that dumb wonder doesn't get us anywhere. I remember this prisoner at Palermo, not a political, some kind of bandit. He just couldn't believe that I was Gramsci. Came and asked me. I was somebody famous, and therefore I had to be a giant, 6 feet tall at least, instead of this half-dead dwarf in chains. Didn't say another word, either. Have you come across Rousseau at all in your reading?
Man is born free and is everywhere in chains.
It would be nice if it was as simple as that. Shake off our chains and we'll all grow like flowers.
Are you not just playing with words there?
We've got to be careful that words don't play with us. What if we took a more organic view? What if the chains were part of us?
I don't follow.
I'm talking about our culture. What made us in the first place? To grow, we've got to absorb that, understand it. And of course, a bit of fertilizer helps.
I still don't see what you're driving at.
Yes, you do. Instead of putting us intellectuals up on a pedestal, think of us as chicken shit. Good for the ground. Or ought to be. The best of Lenin to get the best out of lie. As for poor old Nino, he can hardly even walk anymore without somebody to help him.